Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed on the stories shaping our world.
Good to be here.
Today, we're diving into a fascinating and, frankly, pretty unprecedented legal drama unfolding right now in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's like a high-stakes tug-of-war, isn't it?
Yeah.
For who actually controls the U.S. Attorney's Office there.
Exactly. And the thing is, as of today, July 23rd, 2025, it's genuinely unclear who is officially in charge. It's setting the stage for, well, a major constitutional showdown.
Between two really powerful branches of the U.S. government, yeah. And that's precisely our mission for this deep dive. We're going to try and unpack the recent events in New Jersey, look into the backgrounds of the key players involved.
Right.
The specific actions that led to this, well, this extraordinary impasse.
And maybe most importantly, the historical context, the constitutional side of it that explains why this matters so much.
Yeah, for the independence of the justice system, and that whole delicate balance of power.
Okay, so the crucial first piece of this puzzle seems to be Alina Habba herself. Her interim appointment as U.S. Attorney for New Jersey really kind of kicked this whole thing off.
It did. She's a lawyer, transitioned from private practice, eventually started her own firm, Habba, Medallo and Associates, offices in New Jersey and Manhattan.
Her legal work was quite varied before she got involved with Trump, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Represented clients in nursing home suits, a student wanting tuition back, even a former Real Housewives star.
Huh.
But it was really her increasingly high-profile association with former President Trump that put her on this trajectory.
That seems to be the key connection. How did that happen?
Well, apparently they met at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, which was really close to her law firm. She joined his legal team around September 2021.
Replacing some pretty established lawyers, I remember.
That's right. And her tenure as Trump's attorney definitely put her under a serious microscope. Some very contentious cases involved there.
Let's talk about some of those. They really set the stage for the criticism later, didn't they?
They did. There was that $100 million lawsuit against the New York Times and Mary Trump.
Yeah.
Dismissed pretty quickly. The judge said it failed as a matter of constitutional law.
Not a great start.
No. And maybe even more telling was that 2022 suit against Hillary Clinton and others, that one got dismissed too. And Habba and the other Trump lawyers actually got sanctioned.
Sanctioned? How much?
Ordered to pay nearly $1 million in legal costs combined. The judge's words were remarkably strong, said no reasonable lawyer would have filed it, intended for a political purpose.
Wow. Political purpose. That's quite a statement from a judge.
It really is. And it kind of paints a picture, doesn't it? That maybe the legal approach prioritized, high-profile politically charged filings, perhaps even when the legal merit wasn't quite there.
Which raises questions when you're talking about appointing someone to be a U.S. attorney, a role that really demands sticking to the law above politics.
Absolutely. Then there was the E. Jean Carroll defamation trial in January 2024. Habba was lead attorney for Trump there.
I remember that one. The judge wasn't happy with her conduct, was he?
No. The judge reprimanded her repeatedly during the trial, and the jury ended up awarding Carroll, $83.3 million.
Oof. And outside the courtroom, there was that controversy in January 2025, too.
Ah, yes, the Andrew Tate comments. Expressing admiration for him, someone facing really serious accusations, rape and human trafficking, that led to calls for her firing from her counselor role.
So quite a contentious record leading up to her political appointments.
Definitely. So with that background, the move into actual government roles happened pretty fast. Counselor to the president named in December 2024.
And then the big one for this story.
Right. March 24th, 2025, President Trump appoints her as acting U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey.
And that acting role has a time limit, right?
Exactly. 120 days. So that ran until just yesterday, July 22nd, 2025.
And her time in that acting role, even though it was short, it wasn't exactly low-key.
Oh, far from it. Almost immediately, she announced investigations into New Jersey's Democratic governor, Phil Murphy, and the state attorney general, Matt Platkin.
Okay, going right after state political figures.
And she brought charges against Representative LaMonica McIver and Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, though those charges against Baraka were later dropped.
And didn't a judge have something to say about that Baraka case?
Yes, warned against using the office to advance political agendas. And Habba herself openly stated her goal was to turn New Jersey red.
Which, understandably, drew a lot of fire from Democrats in the state.
Absolutely. They accused her of politicizing the office, especially pointing out she didn't have prior law enforcement experience. So yeah, that really set the stage for the confrontation we're seeing play out right now.
Okay, so that brings us right to the core of this conflict. Her 120-day interim term expires July 22nd. No Senate confirmation, mostly because New Jersey's Democratic senators Cory Booker and Andy Kim opposed her. So what happens then?
Well, this is where the judicial branch steps in, using a specific power they have under federal law.
Okay, explain that. How can judges appoint a U.S. attorney? Isn't that an executive function?
Normally, yes. But federal law gives district court panels limited authority, really, to appoint a replacement U.S. attorney if the attorney general's interim pick, like Habba, expires without Senate confirmation.
Huh. Where does that power come from?
It actually dates back quite a ways to the Civil War era, but it was specifically reinforced by Congress in 2007.
Why then?
Oh, that was after a scandal involving, politically motivated firings of U.S. attorneys. The idea was to create a safeguard, a way for federal judges to ensure continuity and independence when a presidential interim appointment runs out without Senate approval.
So it's meant as a check on executive power.
Exactly. A check to protect the independence of federal prosecutors. So on July 22nd, a panel of federal judges in New Jersey did just that. They appointed Desiree Leigh Grace.
Who was Habba's first assistant, right?
That's right, to lead the office instead of Habba, whose term had expired.
Okay, so tell us about Desiree Leigh Grace. Who is she?
Well, she's described as a highly respected career prosecutor. Joined the U.S. Attorney's Office back in 2016.
So she's been there a while.
Yeah, and has a strong nonpartisan record. Served under both Republican and Democratic administrations. Got promoted 4 times in 5 years, apparently including by the current administration.
Interesting. So she wasn't seen as an outsider or purely political pick by the judges.
Not at all. In fact, a magistrate judge praised her professionalism during that controversial Ras Baraka case we mentioned earlier. And it's probably worth noting she's a registered Republican herself.
Okay, so the judges see her as a professional, non-political choice. How do they justify appointing someone who's technically part of the executive branch?
Well, the judiciary's view, which federal appeals courts have generally supported, is that U.S. attorneys are sort of dual-hatted. Yes, they're part of the executive branch reporting to the AG, but they're also considered officers of the court who serve the judicial branch.
So courts see these judicial appointments as a legitimate check?
Generally, yes, as a way to ensure stability and independence when the normal appointment process stalls.
Okay, so the judges make their move, appoint Grace. How did the executive branch respond? You said swift and forceful.
Understatement of the year, maybe. This brings Attorney General Pam Bondi into the picture. She took office back on February 5th, 2025.
Right. Former Florida Attorney General involved in Trump's first impeachment defense.
That's her. And within hours, literally hours, of the judges appointing Grace, Attorney General Bondi fired her.
Fired the person the judges just appointed.
Fired her. Bondi announced it on X, formerly Twitter, didn't mince words either, said, politically minded judges refuse to allow her HADA to continue. This Department of Justice does not tolerate rogue judges, especially when they threaten the president's core Article 2 powers.
Wow. Calling federal judges rogue and politically minded? That's strong language.
Extremely strong. And Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche backed her up, accusing the judges of colluding with the NJ senators and pushing a partisan agenda. He said, this backroom vote will not override the authority of the chief executive.
So the executive branch is basically saying, nice try, judges, but we have the final say. What's their legal argument?
Their core argument rests on Article 2 of the Constitution. The president appoints U.S. attorneys. They serve at the pleasure of the president, directed by the attorney general.
And the 120-day interim appointment power.
They see that as the president's prerogative. And crucially, they argue the president retains the power to remove anyone in that role, even someone appointed by the judiciary under that special statute. They believe the executive holds, well, all the trump cards, so to speak.
Has the Supreme Court weighed in on this kind of thing?
Not directly on this specific conflict, but it's interesting. Justice Clarence Thomas, joined by Justices Alito and Gorsuch, has previously expressed doubts about whether court-appointed prosecutors are really consistent with the original understanding of separation of powers.
So there's some sympathy for the executive's view on the court, potentially.
Potentially, yes. And the White House, through spokesperson Harrison Fields, put out a statement expressing full confidence in Habba and looking forward to her final confirmation, essentially ignoring the judicial appointment.
And Pam Bondi, as AG, has shown she's willing to take a pretty assertive stance against the judiciary before, right?
Absolutely. Her tenure, though relatively short so far, has been marked by actions that really assert executive authority.
Like what?
Well, For instance, there was that incident where she publicly defied a federal judge's order concerning deportation flights. She basically said the judge had no right to ask those questions and no power to stop the flights.
Directly challenging a court order.
Yes, and openly accusing judges of meddling in our government. So this kind of direct confrontation with the judiciary in the New Jersey case, it fits a pattern, you could say. An administration really determined to push back against what it sees as judicial overreach.
Okay, so we have the judges appointing Grace, the AG firing Grace, both sides claiming authority. What does this mean on the ground in New Jersey right now? As we said, it's still not clear who's actually in charge.
That's the immediate problem. It seems like it's setting up a major legal battle, a real tug of war that could honestly jeopardize criminal cases across the state.
How so?
Well, think about it. Who has the authority to sign indictments, to make prosecutorial decisions? If there's ambiguity about who the actual U.S. attorney is, it can lead to challenges, delays, maybe even dismissals. Just massive dysfunction.
And Desiree Grace, has she just accepted the firing?
No. Apparently, she's publicly stated her intention to take over the office, pointing to her nonpartisan career and the judge's appointment. But Bondi's firing order creates this huge legal cloud.
So this specific fight in New Jersey, you see it as part of something bigger?
I think you have to, yeah. It looks like part of a broader war with the courts, maybe, that the administration seems to be engaging in. We could see similar battles popping up in other districts, particularly in places like Nevada or Manhattan, maybe other blue states, where Democratic senators have influence over confirmations and might block Trump's nominees, triggering this same judicial appointment mechanism.
It really comes back to that balance of power idea. You mentioned an analogy earlier that might help visualize this.
Yeah, the ship analogy, it's pretty useful here, I think.
Walk us through it.
Okay, so think of the federal government or maybe a specific judicial district as a ship. The president is the captain. The captain wants to pick the helmsman, that's the U.S. attorney, to steer the ship.
Makes sense.
Now, the Senate acts like the ship's counsel. They have to approve the captain's choice for a permanent helmsman.
Right, the confirmation process.
Exactly. But if the captain's temporary helmsman, like Habba on her 120-day appointment, isn't approved quickly by the council,
then the judges step in.
Right. The ship's navigators, the federal judges, can temporarily step in under that law we talked about and appoint their choice of helmsman, like Grace, just to keep the ship on course.
Okay, got it.
But then the attorney general, who's like the captain's executive officer, tries to dismiss the navigator's pick, asserting the captain's ultimate authority over the crew.
And that leads to?
Well, limbo. The crew, everyone in the U.S. attorney's office, isn't sure who is actually steering the ship. Leads to uncertainty, confusion, potential disruption for everyone involved.
That's a really clear way to put it. And what a powerful image that leaves us with. This deep dive has definitely highlighted a really active, high-stakes dispute over, well, the fundamental division of power in the U.S. government.
It really has. And in this ongoing tug of war, you have to ask, where does that balance truly lie? What does this unprecedented conflict actually mean for the future independence of our justice system? For the whole idea of checks and balances.
Yeah.
It raises a really important question for you, the listener, too. What stands out to you about who ultimately gets the final say when different branches of government assert their constitutional powers like this? It's something we'll likely be watching very closely.